Murdered Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, and subscribe, because it is so important to our success here on the YouTube. And if you are not already a part of our book club, please remember to hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's talk about DreamGirl, My Life is a Supreme by Mary Wilson, part, I think this is 11. So where we left off, guys, you have the four members. That would be Barbara, Flo, Mary, and Diane, okay? They in a crisis, child. Their manager, had just been arrested on a parole violation, okay? They don't know much more. All they know is that they don't know what's next, okay? So they sitting around, they looking at each other's face, what's next? You know, I mean, goddamn, we can't catch a break nowhere, so back to the Motown they go. Now, before we get into what happened at the Motown, let's talk a little bit about the Berry Gordy, okay? Because it's important to know the man behind the machine, okay? Berry Gordy hailed from a prominent middle-class Detroit family. His parents, Berry and Bertha, had moved up from the South in 1922, but unlike most blacks who came north during that era, Berry Gordy Sr., who is also lovingly called Pops, was an experienced businessman, having run and managed his family's farm after his father's death. Okay, the 8 Gordy children, Esther, Gwen, Anna, Lucy, Robert, Fuller, George, and Barry, would find varying degrees of success in life. Berry Gordy had said himself that if it wasn't for his sisters, he wouldn't be as great of a man as he is. If you guys remember how in the Jan Gay book, we learned the reason why Berry the Gordy got Marvin Gaye was because of 2 of his sisters, okay? So, you know, let's not pretend them sisters had a lot to do with his success. Berry had worked hard, but so far had failed to find either his niche or the kind of money he wanted. While living in his sister Lucy's house following his separation from his first wife, Thelma, Berry was writing songs. So the Flame Show Bar was the Apollo Theater of Detroit, and every major black performer played there at least once. For black entertainers, the Flame Show Bar was as prestigious as the Latin Quarter, New York's Copacabana. In the 50s, though, Sam Cooke, Sarah Vaughan, Della Reese, Brooke Benton, B.B. King, and Bill Williams were regulars at the Flame. And Berry's sisters, Anna and Gwen, who ran the photography concession there, introduced their brother to anyone who would listen to his songs, okay? So you see this, right? Them damn sisters is... Knowing Berry as I do, I'm not surprised that he made headway as quickly as he did. He was confident and determined. In those days, some of these men were looked upon as hustlers, and to some degree, I guess they were. The music business, though, was unlike any other hustle. Smooth talk went only so far. Sooner or later, you had to deliver the goods. Now, dig this. Remember, we done read Rick James' book, okay? We done read this book, Murray. We done read and the Jan Gay books. So far, we done read 3 Motown books, okay, that didn't expose them ninjas around there to the Motown as being pimps. So another thing I want to point out at Berry Gordy that we all should know, okay? Now, this may go a little bit to the left, but you're okay. What she said about Berry was that Berry surrounded himself with people who equated him or who were in the position where he wanted to be. So one of the first people that Berry teamed up with was Billy Davis, an aspiring young musician who was dating his sister Gwen. Davis introduced Berry to the Reverend C.L. Franklin. Each of the Reverend's daughter, Aretha, Irma, and Carolyn, was known around Detroit as great singers. But Berry and Billy were only interested in Irma. The Reverend Franklin told Berry that he should work with Aretha, but Berry didn't care for Aretha's singing style. Okay, now that's a lie. That's a damn lie. Okay, and we know this from reading Aretha Franklin's book. Okay, you know damn well that the Reverend C.L. Smooth ain't want nothing to do with that nigga label Motown. That label was not good enough for his daughter Aretha Franklin. C.L. Smooth wanted Aretha Franklin to sing with Barbara Streisand. Not you niggas. Who's telling the truth? I'm inclined to believe that C.L. Smooth didn't want his baby to sing with Motown, because he wanted something greater. He didn't want his daughter to just be, you know, boxed into shoe bop, beep-a-doo, beep-boop bop. Okay, that's part of the reason why everybody left Motown, because they was tired of that shee-be-deep, doop-doop, beep-boop bop bubblegum music. So in 1957, Gordy met a young, sexy Jackie Wilson. Okay, Jackie Wilson was already hot, baby. He was hot. Them ladies was pulling off their underwears, okay, and throwing them at him. That's how hot the Jackie Wilson was. Around this time also is when Gordy met a young poet by the name of Janie Bradford. Okay, she was about 14 years old, right? And it just seems very weird to me. And as I'm looking at these old books, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, these girls are being really pushed into adult situations, right? Because in my mind, what the hell is a 14-year-old even doing, knowing a grown man like that or grown people like that? It's just weird to me. But I understand from reading these books how these girls end up pregnant and married before the age of 16. Janie had wrote a song that was successful. It was called Reet Petite. Now, while Barry was making a name for himself, Janie was naturally more impressed by the singers. She and Barry's first conversation ended with Janie telling Barry she could outright him any day. Okay, and Barry promised to take her up on the deal. She gave him her phone number and then forgot all about it. A few months later, Barry and a friend turned up at Janie's doorstep. And this is what I'm like, well, what did the mama say? Like, you knocking on the door, it's two grown-ass men at the front door. Mama, do you feel uncomfortable with that? Because I'm like, it's just way too many Kels situations going on in the music industry. You know what I'm saying? It's way too many situations where these grown men, right, are having, you know, relationships. Not, you know, relationships, no. But why are you even talking to these young ass girls? Remember when Sam Cooke and Aretha Franklin went into the hotel room? What the hell are you doing in there? Okay, and the Staple Singers on the outside giggling. What are Aretha doing in there with that daggone Sammy Cooke? Barry and his collaborators kept Wilson in hits for almost 2 years with Lonely Teardrops, To Be Loved, I'll Be Satisfied, and That's Why I Love You So. One of the favorites. Wilson's album, Lonely Teardrops, which included 2 of Janie's compositions, went gold, and Barry's place in the music business seemed secure. Jackie Wilson's manager and Gordy ended up going to see this group called the Matadors, right? Who eventually turned into the Miracles. Now, Jackie Wilson's manager wasn't feeling them because they like, Joe, this is like the Platters. You got like, you know, 4 boys and 1 girl or something like that and 1 girl. No, we already got a Platters. We don't need a group like that. Gordy, on the other hand, saw promise in Smokey the Robinson and his Miracles. Barry got to talking with lead singer Smokey and soon learned that Smokey also wrote poems and song lyrics. Smokey would later admit that most of what he had written at that point wasn't even good enough. But it didn't matter because Gordy believed in him. Things seemed to be going Barry's way until Jackie Wilson's manager decided to move his office from Chicago to New York. And Barry had no idea when or if he would ever hook up with someone as hot as Wilson again. Irma Franklin had dropped out of the music business, and the Miracles hadn't yet found the right song. Now, Smokey the Robinson goes to his mentor, Gordy. Okay, Gordy, when we gonna get out of Lucy's basement? Sister always got an old brother down in the basement, sneaking girls through the back door, hunting them and putting them out before daylight. You know how that goes. He had already started working on moving out of Lucy's basement, okay? He was working on an old photography studio that was set up in a 2-story house that now he done turned into Hitsville, USA. The house became a second home to all the writers. No one thought of it as a job. They just loved being there. There weren't yet deadlines to meet and orders to follow. Things just seemed to happen. Gradually, people on the local scene began to regard Barry as the man with the golden touch. Over the next decade, some of our generation's best writers, musicians, and performers would find their way to Barry. But not just anybody got in, and not everybody stayed. From the start, Barry surrounded himself with only the best and the brightest. Janie Bradford had her sights set on becoming an attorney. Eddie Holland was studying to become a certified public accountant. You had to have brains, energy, ambition, and a degree of class to pass muster with Barry. And that would, to me, would explain the Motown machine, okay? That explains to me why they had so many things in place to make sure that what was connected to Motown was elegant, okay? Because he don't want no trash on his team, okay? Them girls may come from the projects, right, but we're going to clean them up, dust them off, clean their fingernails out, and we're going to make sure that they become something special, okay? And on the way, I'm going to hunt one of them, at least. By the time we returned in the winter of 1960, Motown was firmly established and running very much like a family. Not surprisingly, Barry's parents also became part of Hitsville. All of the Gordys seemed to have been born with the gift of gab. And I'm pretty sure they all inherited it from Mrs. Gordy. And Pops was a favorite. No one was immune to the Gordy charm, least of all the Primettes. Pops was a sweet gentleman fond of making wolfish remarks to attractive young girls. Flo was his favorite, and we tease her about Pops flirting all the time. Now, Flo is still underage, right? I don't know. Let me just put it this way. I'm glad that America is taking a turn on how they do things now. It's not okay for a man to make passes at women in a work environment and just brush it off, okay? Women have been so conditioned to ignoring it and accepting male poor behavior that they didn't know, okay? This old ass man, Pops, if Barry the Gordy's like 30, we know his pappy is like 70. Now, okay, while we at it, let's go back right quick. Remember earlier when I said that Barry the Gordy didn't want Aretha Franklin, okay? Because he didn't like the way she sang. Don't Flo sound like Aretha Franklin? That's what y'all told me, okay? That Flo sang like Aretha Franklin. And on top of that, the only song that Barry the Gordy liked when the girls, the Primettes, auditioned for Barry the Gordy was Diana Ross's voice, okay? And I believe that was because Diana Ross's voice was catered more towards pop, bubblegum, younger, shoop, shoop, tweedly-deedly, tweet, tweet type music, right? You can't get that kind of music from a soulful singer like a Flo or a Aretha Franklin. Barry the Gordy like, no, we'll put her in the back. I ain't feeling her anyway. My pops keep fucking with it. He gonna get us sued. They wasn't suing nobody. When we got back to Hitsville, everyone there seemed overjoyed to see us. We had been away only about 4 months, but the way our friends there carried on, it might have been years. Before we could fully explain our absence to anyone, we spotted Barry coming out of the control room on his way down to Studio A. He hugged each of us. We introduced him to Barbara, and then he told us to come into the studio with him. Mary Wells was soon to become Motown's first premier female artist. Although her first big hit was still a year away, she was cutting tracks regularly with Motown and was also a songwriter. Barry decided to sign her after she sang one of her own songs for him. Doing background vocals for her was one of our first assignments. After a few weeks of being everyone's favorite prodigal daughters, the fuss over our return died down. And before long, we were wondering when we finally get to make our own record. Now, this is a break for Flo. God bless the Flo, okay? In 1960, late 1960, Flo's mammy had got her old good job, okay? The job afforded the Ballards to get the hell out of the Brewster projects, okay? I mean, I don't know. One day, Smokey popped into the lobby on his way to a session with Mary Wells. While we were all chatting, he suddenly got the idea to use us for one of Mary's records. We were so thrilled at the chance to record, we almost thought we'd die. Then Smokey told us that it would only be hand claps. Slow down, girl. Slow down. You're only going to be in there doing the hand claps, girl. Just chill out. Chill out. I mean, I know that was a dream buster. By early 1961, more and more acts were migrating to Hitsville. Soon, we were joined at Hitsville by our old affiliates, the Primes. A lot of things had happened since we'd last seen one another, and now Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams with Eldred Bryant and Otis Williams and Melvin Franklin of the Distance were the Temptations. Over the years, the Temps lineup would change with old friends like Richard Street joining later on. Y'all told me, right? Last night I was looking at some old Temptations video, right? Hey, I mean, it was the Temptations at the Hurrahs, okay? And Dennis Edwards was the lead singer there. His mouth was going. You heard me? It was going, y'all. I was in my feelings so bad. I was like, damn, not my Dennis Edwards. But I mean, crack had everybody back then in the 80s, right? What was funny was that Richard Street, big mouth ass, had said that Melvin was trying to get a hold of Mary, and Richard Street go, and I was trying to get Diane. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm so confused. Everybody must have been fucking everybody in the Motown. Must have been. Now, how this worked was, okay, Melvin Franklin's mother, Anna Gordy, and Gwen Gordy all belong to the same women's group, right? Okay. Now, when Melvin Franklin's mother had told the Gordy sisters about her son and their capabilities with singing and the group and things like that, the sister said, I tell you what, won't you have your sons to come down to the Hitsville and audition for my brother? That opened the door for the Temptations at Hitsville. So again, this is it's not Bird or Gordy, it's his sisters. Now, another future Motown star was also there by now. Martha Reeves was working as Mickey Stevenson's secretary in the A&R department. In December, we got our first shot in the studio. Freddie Gorman, who used to be their mailman, had wrote a song by the name of I Want a Guy. Okay? The girls ain't bothered by it because in their mind, they can make a hit out of anything. Okay, so we got to the studio early the day of the session. Barry was very excited for us. He thought I Want a Guy was a good song for the Primettes to record. He took us aside, offered us some words of encouragement, and promised to come down later and see how we were doing. The song was written to sound coy and girlish, so it needed a high lead vocal, and Diane did it. After I Want a Guy was finally released, Freddie complained to us in private that Barry had heard the song before we recorded it, changed a few words, and then took credit for co-writing it. Well, I think that is co-writing if you take the song and you put a couple of words in it, but Murray said that the dude really didn't care anyway. The mailman was like, fuck it, I'm going to write it now. I ain't got to deliver this mail no more, so now I'm a writer. And he got over the fact that Bird Gordy kind of, shenaniganed him. We weren't even signed to Motown yet. Still, Barry assigned us to Smokey. We were all pleased that the first song we got to record with Smokey was a Miracles tune, Who's Loving You? Because it was a ballad, I assumed I would be singing the lead, as I always had, because Murray don't do shit but sing the ballads. I stood in the studio that day expecting Smokey to hand the lead sheet to me. When he gave it to Diane instead, my heart sank. But she got over it, okay? Because she here for the good of the Primettes, okay? She ain't here for the good of her own personal success, okay? Everybody here for the primates except for the Diane. Okay, Diane is here for Diane, but everybody else is vested. When we reached the part where Diane sings "The World, My Life, My Love," and we had to repeat them, Barbara sang loud and flat. Now, don't forget, okay, that the reason why Diane likes Barbara is because Barbara can't sing. She was like, oh yeah, you, right? Because the other girl who could sing, Diane was like, I don't like that bitch. Get rid of her. I don't like her. Everybody else was good with her. Flo and Murray liked the girl. Okay, I forget her name. Oh, her name was Jackie, right? Everybody else liked her because she could sing. She was already an established singer. I mean, Murray then took all her goodness and tried to woo the girl to the primates. When Jackie sang for him, Diane was like, I don't like her. But the bitch Barbara, that can't hold a tune, oh, she loved her. One day in early January 1961, Barry called us into the office and offered to sign us. We were ecstatic, but he added, you girls need a different name. Primates won't do. The contracts were drawn up, so we had to decide about this soon. One day, Flo read off her list. The Darkins, the Sweet Peas, the Melodies, the Royal Tones, the Jewelettes, the Supremes. None of them really impressed any of us, but Flo seemed to like one. After a minute, she said, I like this one. The Supremes. Now, if you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, and subscribe because it is so important to our success here on the YouTube. Now, remember this. The same people that you meet on the way up will always be the same people that you meet on the way down. My naysayers, my patron loves, you babies, y'all better have a good one. Be safe.